self-intro first so that we get to know a little bit about their background. We've also given them 6 questions to prep ahead of time so we're not scaring them too much. But you are allowed to ask questions in between. So if you do have questions, you just raise your hand and they can then choose who's going to answer. But we will pop up each question up the top and then they'll take turns to give us their answers for that particular question, but then you guys can jump in any moment. Right, so we're going to get you guys to introduce yourselves, and they have all kindly agreed to be filmed.
Well, this was certainly not what I was expecting, but my name is Gail. I am a second year student studying accounting and finance.
Hello, my name is Sam. I'm a second year student as well, and I'm studying accounting and information management.
Hello, my name is Edward. I'm a third year engineering and commerce conduit student.
Hi, I'm Rochelle. I'm a fourth year law and commerce conjoint, majoring in information systems and economics.
Hi, my name is Arsalan. I'm one of the older students here. I have been a university student, bachelor and postgraduate student for over 7 years now. Currently doing a bachelor's in operations management and commercial law.
Hi, my name is Kathy. I'm in my first year. I started off doing a BCom BSc, completed all the first year papers, then moved to a Bachelor of Arts, majoring in communications and politics.
Great, thank you. Right, so we've got some questions for them. Do you want to read out the
So as Sally said, the way we're going to do this, we'll pose the question to the students and we'll hear from some of them as to their answers, but you may have some follow-up questions. So at that point, please feel free to answer those questions as well. So the first question is, in your opinion, what is the purpose of assessment? Who'd like to start us off?
I suppose that makes sense.
Go that way and just go back that way. Yep, sounds
Stand
good.
in the hot seat. So I believe the purpose of a test is to test the students on concepts or theories taught in class to gauge their level of understanding and whether or not they meet the required threshold expected of a student wanting to work in that particular field or area.
Right, I believe the purpose of an assessment is to show the teacher what we have learnt and whether we have retained the knowledge. It is not only a reflection of us as students and our learning styles, but also the teacher and how they have taught us. It is not simply about remembering and regurgitating information onto the exam script.
So I guess my response will be a little bit more on the fly, but for me, I don't have anything really prepared. For me, the purpose of assignment is kind of like a checkpoint, I guess, to ensure that we're up to date with the course and that we understand what we need to know for that point, because going forward, things may be on what we need to know prior.
So to build on what they've already said, aside from checking on our understanding, it highlights to us what the lecturer wants us to understand, the things that are important to them for us to know in the course as well.
And I guess the idea or purpose of assessment is to learn from mistakes and put into practice the theory you learn throughout the course. However, my experience and observation has been that assessment is used as an indicator for external stakeholders like employers and sometimes a mechanism for exclusion, or because there are courses that they say, okay, we want people down or up because we want certain number of people in this percentile. So it's a mechanism for exclusion, filtering, indicating skills to external stakeholders.
I think the purpose of assessment is that's the point of the degree, otherwise you'd just be buying the degree. That's what you come here to do, is the assessment. The learning is just preparing you for that, and then the degree is kind of the reward.
So do we have any follow-up questions that anyone would like to ask in general, or any students' answers in particular? Yes?
Do assessments help you learn?
For me, I've definitely experienced experience that this year assessments do help me learn. I've gotten a little bit behind in some things this year, but then obviously I also do care about, I guess, my score in the course. So when an assessment comes, that actually forces me to catch up on the material in the course.
Cool.
Well, can I follow up? Is it about learning or is it about helping with time management?
I guess it is a bit about time management, but also, I mean, I know between me and my friends, sometimes I guess the lecture, when we attend lectures or whatnot, it's not exactly our learning style, and so we intend to watch lecture recordings later, but sometimes never get around to it. So when an assessment comes up, it really forces us to. Sorry, no, you're right. It's more about time management. Sorry. Couldn't work my way out of that one. Oh, sorry, pass it on.
Yeah, just keep.
Okay.
Are there any other questions to follow up?
So the reason we ask this is because you can see we think assessment for a reason, and they obviously can have different ideas of why we have assessments. All right. Do you have a favorite form of assessment and a reason for this?
So my favourite form of assessment is a combination of short answers or showing workings and multiple choice. I firmly believe that an element of multiple choice is the closest way to simulate the real world in the sense that you're not expected to know everything, and you might, in the real world, do research or ask colleagues, superiors and so on to find the right solution to a problem in the workplace. Having a multiple choice is, I think, the closest simulation to this because, yes, it does give you an answer on your face, but I feel like, again, because you don't have to know what it is necessarily that you are doing, you have that ability to potentially tick off potential answers and then make a decision based on what you think is the most appropriate for that answer, for that question.
Right, okay. I interpreted the question slightly differently. So my answer, my favourite form of an assessment is individual assessments and smaller tests spread evenly throughout the semester. It means that you're not under immense pressure to perform unbelievably well at a final exam that in some pages can be worth 65% of your final grade.
So for me, my favorite form, I guess it depends on, the type of content of the course, but from an engineering point of view, I guess doing some calculations is always like a right or a wrong answer. I like assessments like that because it can confirm my understanding, so if I do something, as opposed to not having a correct answer, I cannot confirm my understanding.
Well, I enjoy the research and discussion questions that I get given, so I get to apply what I've learned and also engage with the theory and the reasoning behind it, with some guidance given to me from the lecturer or the course as to what I should be looking at. So often, I think, mostly through my law papers, I've been given discussion questions or scenarios where I've had to engage with a open-ended question and then given some guidance as to what I should look towards. So maybe start off with these few textbooks, and then the rest will help to me. Therefore, I can really test how much I understand and really practice that as well. So I prefer the more open-ended style.
For me, projects, take-home assignments, open book, problem-solving exams. The reason is my experience has been for writing essays and thesis. I have always received high mark, but test and exams low mark. And I attended the learning impediment department, and they come up with the idea that I suffer from anxiety and ADHD. So I guess test and exam is not suitable for my learning requirements. Yeah, that's the reason I prefer.
I'm going to be honest, I don't like multi-choice questions because the teachers just scan them through the machine. If I have to work, I kind of like it if the teachers have to work. Just being honest. I also like the really weird assignments, like for our comms paper, we're learning to code for Twitter bots, and the assessment is actually on how creative you are, not how good your code is. And like, you code for pretty pictures and stuff like that that's quite unique and different. But a test that you know the theory, because the theory is actually about like social, Twitter bots' impact on society or something. So it's testing that you know that and know how to implicate it, but also that like projects that are spread throughout rather than just an exam, because they're more real world. Like in a business, you don't actually just get an exam at the end of like the quarter or whatever. You get projects to work on and you get judged by your superiors because of that.
Question?
So just listening to all of you, you all had really different preferences for assessments, which is sort of a challenge for teachers as well, and meeting all the different learning modalities. But kind of fundamentally, really, I think a lot of us struggle with how do we get students to engage with the learning that you want to get out of your programs, and that knowing that assessments are what you focus on often, or the time management side of things. So do you have advice about how we could be doing things differently in terms of getting you to do the learning, but making sure that you actually have done the pre-lectures or things that will enable you to actually be effective on the assessments? Is there a different way we could be structuring our assessments?
So for the comms paper, the lecturer builds up. So the first week you basically get step 1, and then the next week you get step 2. You basically build up to the assignment. So like if you miss a week or anything, you can't, it all falls apart. So you've got to actually go back. And then it's done in a fun, interesting way. Like Twitter bots is so relevant to us and everything now. It's just something that's different.
One of my papers last semester in information management specifically did the individual assignments and tests spread evenly throughout the semester. And so it's exactly like that, that if you do happen to miss a lecture, or they were streamed, but if you did happen to miss it and you couldn't watch it, then you would kind of fall off the wagon a little bit, so that sort of motivated you to go to class every single time, rather than an exam, whereas you can kind of spend the rest of the semester catching yourself back up and then try and crank it out again.
And I would just say that I think as long as the lectures are relatable to what it is that, or why it is we're having to learn this content, this material and so on, rather than just reading off scripts or reading off lecture slides and making it engaging, I think is good. Ultimately, I suppose at the end of the day, it's up to the student and whether or not they're motivated to go to class to do the work that is required and so on. So I think it is kind of 50-50. Yes, you guys have to make it engaging, but we also have to want to do the work and actually do the work in order to get the results or whatever it is that we desire to get.
We like him. We really like him.
I think I also agree with what he said in terms of it's both student and teacher engagement, but also I guess something that I've noticed, not in the commerce faculty, but some courses you have like a lecturer change, and instead of I guess coming up with new assessments that fits this new lecturer style, they just reuse the old material and slap their name onto it. And so for me, like when I see an assignment like that, it makes me feel like I don't really want to do it because the lecturer themselves didn't really put any effort into it. No names or anything, but I once had an assignment that was taken off the internet from 2015. I could literally put the question back into Google and get the answer. So it's effort in, effort out, right?
Yes. What are your thoughts on being involved in the design of assessment itself, and how would you like to approach that if say that option was made available to you? What would you do?
Yeah.
What I would say is we don't need to be part of the design of the assessment, I don't think, well that's my belief, but having an understanding of what it is that you want us to know and what parts of the content you want us to really understand. And again, not to give us the answer, but hey guys, you should really focus on this. And some courses do that, some don't. So I have found myself going into assessments going, Christ, it could be anything in the last 12 weeks, fair enough. But there's also assessments that go, well, I really need to know this, or specifically this part of the course really well, and the other stuff I can just, supplement that with the rest of the time and so on that I have to study for that test or for that exam.
I've had a couple of courses. So I've had a couple of courses that did ask students to contribute answers. In the one course, I didn't enjoy it because it became a bit of a competition. So it was sort of an anonymous submission to the lecturer, and the lecturer just picked some and they magically appeared in your exam or not. And if you wrote them, good for you. If you didn't write them, you had no idea, and it could just be, you're not here, it's okay. Just a quick scan, I was like, are they here? So it was a good idea, but I didn't enjoy how it became a competition between students and that some were given an unfair advantage, so it felt like an uneven playing field. But if we were all open, it's a very open engagement, and we were all open forum, I'd be happy with it.
I've never been assessed like that, but I really like that kind of idea that you kind of have your own project and you're kind of being supervised and kept on track, kind of like, mentored rather than taught at, and then you kind of have an idea because not only does what you're going towards, but you help do it, so you're actually interested in it and you want to engage more, and yeah, I think that's actually a really cool idea.
Can I do a slight follow-up? What about if, say, I'm just kind of putting it, 2 weeks or the month before or the semester before, and you knew you were going to do a paper the following semester, if the lecturer kind of got you in and said, how would you like to be assessed, in the sense of, would you like, so not necessarily what the questions are going to be, but would you prefer a mid-semester test, would you like an assignment, do you want group assignments, would you be interested in that kind of ability to have your say, so you don't get to decide maybe what the questions are or anything like that, but you might get a say in, well, actually, how are we going to assess you? Is it going to be multi-choice or is it going to be essays? How would you feel about that?
I've had a paper where they did that, but it's kind of like popular vote, and they chose the top 3, and then if you got stuck, then you had to do a group presentation or whatever, and you just weren't into it at all, and someone else was like, yes, this is my strength, and it's just...
I mean, I guess the tricky thing, I'm speaking for other lecturers and teachers, is thinking about, I just kind of think of U6 as a whole, and you all have different preferences. So for us, we're kind of going, well, we will have to just do majority rules because we'll satisfy the most people, and I guess that's, if we've got a class of 30, maybe we can do individualised, but if we've got a class of 400, it becomes tricky. So do you think it would be preferable for us to just decide, or would popular vote be?
Personally, I think preferable to decide, because then at least no one's being advantaged, specifically over others, so no one has, 5% doesn't have their say over everyone else.
No, but Andrew, I think you had a point to make.
That's the question. Would your answer change if the question changed to, do you have a form of assessment where you thought you learned the most?
Yeah. Can I put a spin on that? It's not preferred, but you know it's good for you. The vegetable of assessment.
Yeah, it would be like your vegetables. It's like, yeah, I have to do it. Yeah, I know it's good for me, but I'd probably drag my heels the whole way and wait till late last night still, just because I wouldn't like it.
I guess that question leads us to answer based on looking into the consequence and outcome or result of the test. And your answer, Andrew, leads us to think of the whole process of integrating learning into assessment or assessment into learning. So I guess, yes, the answer will be fundamentally different.
I don't think mine would change. I hate assessments where I feel like it's a scavenger hunt, that it's just been hidden in the lecture slides and my job is to find them. So I picked the one that I thought I learned the most in, which are the harder ones where I had to go out and do research.
Thank you. Yeah, my answer would actually change to what you prefer, in that it's like a research project, it's open-ended, there's some guidance, and then you have to go out and do a lot of digging and work yourself. I learned the most out of those, but they're not the easiest assignments.
I'm not sure if mine would change. Although you can interpret individual assessment however you like. No, I think I would stick with my answer. Individual assessments and the smaller tests really evenly.
And all I would say to that is, as long as we knew what it was up front, what it is that was required for that paper, for that course, well then, tough, you know, like, again, like the real world, there's going to be some things you don't like doing, even in your dream job, you just have to put up with it. It's 12 weeks, you know, you might enjoy the course, you might not, you might surprise yourself. So, yeah.
I have a follow-up question, because I'm detecting a theme here. How many of your courses actually set up front and explain the course learning outcome? So you come into this course, and this is what you're going to learn, and why this is important for you, and why this is relevant. Because I think that's...
I would just briefly say that I think so far all the courses that I've taken have been pretty clear on what it is that is expected from us and what is we're expected to do. So
I agree. I think it's the thing is though is that when you come into a lecture and it's the first lecture, like first of all everyone's going to be there because that's just the rule, and then and then it dies. No, and then the lecturer will go through the lecture slides and tell you what the assessments are, and then what they do is they come to the lecture slide that says learning outcomes, and they go, oh no, just read that yourself, we're running out of time. But no student will go back to the course outline and read the learning outcomes. They will simply read the assessments. What is required of me? How much do I have to do to get to pass this course if it's something that I don't really enjoy?
For me, I think it's like a lecturer preference maybe. I know a lot of lecturers do that. They build into their course, they'll have a slide that says, these are the learning outcomes, this is why we're learning it, this is how you apply and whatnot. But I've also had other papers where that's just completely not even there, and it's just, here's what you're doing, go off and go do it. Yeah, so I think it's just lecturer preference perhaps.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything much to add. It just depends on the course, and sometimes the more people are involved in the course, the more better structured it was from the beginning, the better the outcomes have been built into it. Sometimes you can feel they've just been slapped all at the end, and you're like, okay, the outcomes just to tick the boxes.
I guess all courses have it, but some of them you need to read between the lines.
Yeah, I was going to say, I haven't gone back to the learning outcome, but don't listen, Mum, but at 3 a.m. one day when I was doing an essay last minute, and I just had no idea. So that's the only time in 3 years and 12 first year papers have I ever looked at a learning outcome.
Quick question.
Sorry.
What can you tell us about the graduate profile?
Whoa.
This one.
Graduate profile?
I think sometimes, I guess sometimes there are like some marketing elements to graduate profile. Yeah, it's like, I did a course, and the graduate profile said you will end up as a diplomat. And I was still sitting here.
I know a bit about it because I've been in Andrew's course. So that I've known that. And also some of the new courses have been put into prerequisites. They've explained it as being because of the graduate profile, and therefore that's how I know that.
In that case, my answer is going to be completely different. I actually have no clue what a graduate profile was until I heard it just then. So
I only heard about it this semester here because it was in one of my Commonwealth papers in the coursework.
Next question.
Okay, so what we're going to look at now is thinking about group assessment. So our question to you guys, we pose to you, is what do you think about group assessments and what aspects do you find helpful and those that you find not so helpful?
So mine again is based on like real world experience and so on, and very similar to my last answer in terms of not liking to do things. Much like you might not like to work with some people, but you have to, or you might really like working with people, and it works really well. So I definitely see the value in that, especially as students, or the majority of students coming through from high school, not having any real world experience or having to deal with other people bar from school. And it kind of makes you learn how to deal with other people and their opinions and so on, and their beliefs and how it is they deal with things and vice versa. I think it's a good thing in terms of the fact that obviously you get a variety of perspectives and beliefs and so on, and what you think your answer should be made up of. But I suppose, like most students, the last thing you dread when you get told you're going to be working in a group is being put into a group of people who don't fall down the way, which I think we probably all agree on that. But to be fair, so far while I've been at university, the lecturers have been pretty approachable in terms of whether or not someone isn't, and we know who to go to, or we can voice that if need be. And not that I personally have, but I've obviously heard of people having their marks and so on, depending on the lack of effort that was produced by it.
Quite a large answer to this question. Right. Okay, so I completely understand what's just been said there, especially with groups conducting it in the real world, and coming from high school, especially where you do probably very minimal group assignments unless you're doing particular kind of subjects. I personally do not like the group assignments. It's not that I'm antisocial, I just don't like them. I've written something here that you will always get the following 4 characteristics in your group with the people that you're with. The one that never shows up. So your group is already down one person, by the way. The one that just sits on Facebook the whole time. The one that does all of the work, and then the one that just agrees with everyone. The part I find not helpful about group assignments is that it is actually no less stressful than if you did it all by yourself. Lecturers always say that you have to work in groups in the real world, and while this is true, in the real world, everyone in the group actually wants to be there, and if we're honest, we're all getting paid to be there as well. The hard part, though, with the group assignment is actually finding a time where everyone can meet. With work commitments and sporting commitments and family commitments, finding a time where everyone can meet is like finding a needle in a haystack. So then you think social media, but then the communication becomes an issue when no one checks the group page every minute of the day. And learning this at university may help us in the future, but while juggling everything else in other papers, plus work, plus sport, plus family, 20% starts to look very insignificant. And then you arrive at the characteristic of the one that never shows up.
I think a lot of good points have been addressed, but for me, one interesting thing about working in a group is that you have people with different experiences, people with different expertise, and for instance, if one person is stronger in an area than another person, you can kind of cover each other's weaknesses, and also it provides you an opportunity to teach someone. I think teaching is also an extremely valuable way of learning, and so if there's someone who doesn't know something, then you have that opportunity to step in and be like, hey, this is how we do things, and also reinforces your own learning. But for me, the biggest drawback about working in a group is like what they've said, like if your group is not cohesive. Some of my best friends at university I met through group work, shout out to Business 102, but also some of the people that I would not like to work with again or not generally see around is also from group work.
I've had a lot of group work. I've had a group project in almost every semester I've been here at uni. I'm here for 4 years, so it's a lot of group work. And I think what we're saying so far in terms of our concerns are nothing surprising to lecturers and course coordinators. That they know what it's like and they know our struggles with that. And what I find most helpful about group assignments is that when the lecturer or the organizer of the groups has recognized how tough it is, and they've thought about the challenges involved in terms of scheduling time together. So some courses make sure we're all in the same lab time, tutorial time, so we have one time where we're supposed to be there and we're all going to have time. That's really helpful. And when the lecturer has thought about people not pulling their weight and they've built in peer reviews or things like that into the assessment. So it's a good experience to understand why they do it, but it's really helpful when the lecturer or organizer thinks about our challenges and has designed it in a way that we can address those.
So I guess the teaching teams, the way they rationalize group assessment is to teach us teamwork for future employability. But I guess that's not the case, because in workplaces, as far as my experience, as someone who has worked for a while, on and on, is that the interpersonal relationship and the dynamics and the whole teamwork is guided by hierarchy and division of labor. But then at university that's not the case. Some people have the whole aim of the members of the team is incoherent and they don't match. Someone wants to get 52%, someone wants to get A plus. Then the whole group work, especially in courses, I have had courses that it's like 20% of the mark. The whole group work becomes something unjust. And there is no way that you can talk to your lecturer for mediation, or if you talk to them, the lecturers are so lenient. And that's why I'm not a big fan of group assessment.
I've done group work across the arts, business and science faculty, and I don't think there's ever been a time where me and another person basically haven't done the work, whether it was like 3 in a group or 10 in a group. And then it comes to the fact that actually the good thing was Business 102, our lecturer allowed us to justify why this person who never showed up should basically just be taken out of the group, because we were still having to put them in and everything, and they showed up on the day of presentation, never having met us at all to do a presentation, and then we had to then adapt. But it was just like the lecturer being approachable and saying okay, yeah, we can change it, and because in a group you have to actually give and take, but the assessment structure doesn't allow it. It's here's your box, now you've all got to try and fit in the box. But if and I think one of my psychology papers, they allowed you to kind of leniency with the type of assessment and the group thing. So, people who don't want to speak that often, they just got to show that they did more of the writing and the planning part rather than the speaking, and they just stand up there. And it's that kind of stuff made it better, but it still wasn't great.
Any other questions on group assessments for the panel?
Yeah. What minimal support do you think your teachers should provide to make group assignments function?
I guess probably create a fake division of labor and fake hierarchy. And also put in place some recourses if there is disputes.
I'd say ask for evidence. So if it is supposed to be group work and everyone's supposed to be equal, have them submit their own work individually and then come together for a presentation for a separate portion of the mark. That's what I had one course that did that, and that worked out great. We all equally put in the work, apart from 1 or 2 people that didn't show up. But you know what I mean? At least then the other people actually had to present and do stuff. It wasn't just 2 or 3 behind the scenes.
I think that for me, it's just having, I guess, like a personal lecturer who would feel comfortable going up to. When you work in a group as a student, you don't want to be that one person, I guess, that goes out there and haggles over a few percent, with your teammates, right? So, I guess for me, sometimes I'm not comfortable going up to a lecturer and saying hey, this person didn't work. It's kind of okay, we'll just share it, right? So if the lecturer is, I guess, personable, makes you feel positive environment where you feel comfortable to go up and speak to the lecturer about these issues, then I'd be more inclined to. And I think that would resolve some issues.
Sorry. Oh, okay. The best thing that you were saying about the Business 101 and 102 papers is that they put you in a group from the start, and so when you finally get to the group assignment at the end, it doesn't actually feel like a group assignment. It is because you've already been molded together for this whole group for the entire 12 weeks, and they make you do the group work every single week, and the lecturers come around and they talk to you, so that it makes it better when the lecturer is approachable as well, plus you've already been in the group already.
And I would just say briefly, if you're going to do, or if you're planning on doing a group assignment as part of the paper, then be ready to hear those problems, or and to take those seriously. And I know obviously sometimes you guys have a lot of stuff to do. It's not just your only paper that you're managing and so on. But let's not lose focus that we also have a lot of stuff to do, like Sam said earlier on, with family, working, and everything else as well. So I think if you are going to incorporate a group assignment, then be prepared to, yes, you're going to hear some moaning and so on, and probably some of it is a bit of rubbish, but also acknowledge and realise when it is potentially an actual, a genuine reason for this moaning because I've got to do this assignment.
There's an upside and a downside to that. The randomness is really good for the people that aren't good at like sitting with other people. And so I've been that in one of my papers before that I didn't know anybody, and I relished the opportunity to be randomly put into a group. But when you know people, then you want to be in the group with your friends, because otherwise you're going to get the characteristics that I read out of the people that don't turn up. And that's what you get when you randomly assign a group. You get a high probability of those kind of people.
I think it's, well, like, they're like good and bad as both, but personally I prefer if we got to make our own groups. I guess from Business 102, one of the things when we were going about forming our own groups was the facilitators were saying, find people that are roughly, that expect the same grade as you. And so when my team came together, we were a team of 6 conference students, and all of us were really pushing for those A's or A pluses, and so our team performed really well, and you know, everyone was really happy. So I prefer that, yeah.
Just before the break, I had to put my students into groups, and I advocated for random selection in the team meeting with Cushville, because I said that when I let them choose in other semesters, they were happier, but they were happier failing together. And then when I put them into groups, they might hate me, but they did better as a whole class altogether. And from my personal experience, I didn't mind being put into groups, but it helped when they were put into groups in person. So like we could find ourselves the moment we were put into groups. Not that we were put into groups on campus and we were left alone to like search for this person, never came to lectures.
Yeah, like I had in Business 101, we got put into a group, and then we showed up for Business 102, and turns out we were all in the same class. We got to choose, so we actually chose to be in our randomly selected group, if that makes sense, just because we all got along so well. But then I agree, like I've just been put in a group with 2 other girls, and this girl was like, yeah, I've got a friend, don't worry. And I've never seen her friend, she'd never shown up. But they talk to each other on Facebook, and I don't know, so it's that whole, like, if you're that one person out and they're friends together, then you get left out. Or if you're with your friends, then you tend to, like, forget about the others. So randomly select is just, like, better, because then everyone's fresh, everyone's equal.
Listen.
I have a comment. My first comment is that it strikes me that there is a discussion about being satisfied with the group versus leaving the group. And then it shocks me that in a research-informed university, our decisions about group formation are not informed by evidence about what supports a group. Because the evidence would say, you don't choose and it's not random. There are criteria for group selection, and we do it in a really transparent process. And that evidence is clear. So let's not negotiate. Let's actually just get on with the job of working out the criteria that should inform the groups for the task, and just do it.
Thanks, Lisa. These questions are questions that were submitted to us from people who wanted to find out these questions, find out answers from the students. So let's move to the next one. And let's talk about feedback. What do you consider as feedback? Can you give us some examples?
I've only got a very brief answer to this one, but I would have just said there's many forms of feedbacks. Emails, notes made on assessments, announcements, and assessments themselves.
I consider feedback as a critique on the work that you've completed. It can be good or bad. It's not giving you the answers to the question. It is critiquing the work that you've done to arrive at the answer that you did, or explaining why the answer that you got is wrong. Office hours are where this mainly happens, and I've used my fair share of office hours. Feedback given on how I've constructed an essay, or how I've arrived at an accounting answer.
Yeah, probably just echoing what you're saying. Feedback for me is something that gives me information about my performance. It could be something like right or wrong on a quiz, or it could be, I guess, written feedback on an essay, or it could be going to office hours and having things further explained.
Yep, so building on that, so anything that I get information back about how I'm doing. For example, it could be something as simple as just getting your grade back, that's feedback, or sometimes with really big courses, they give you a course-wide feedback form, and they tell you about whether class has done well, what they haven't done well. But I really enjoyed the course that took the time to make comments for each individual student. Sometimes it's not feasible really with the number of students you have in a course, but with those courses, sometimes they put in effort into making it a bit more specific. So rather than saying students struggled with this question, they explain what they did well in that question. So like 90% did this well, 90% didn't do this well. In smaller courses, I really enjoyed having video comments. That was fun. Our lecturer filmed him marking our assignments, and he gave comments for the good and the bad. So it's a very holistic approach.
I guess one aspect of feedback is a justification on how the marker has used the marking rubric and why you have been marked a certain way. And it is supposed to show the gap in the student's knowledge and give you an indication that how you can feed that gap. And if you have a serious performance issue, I guess I had it from stats. The lecturer came back to students with serious performance issue mid-semester, after mid-semester test, and said, okay, here are the helps, the available helps are these things. So I guess the feedback shows the gap in your knowledge and also shows how justified the marking is.
I don't count ticks, rate, and stamps as feedback, because then you might as well just have a course coordinator, video lectures, and multi-choice questions, and just in out fast as you can. I think that like when I went through business and science first years, it wasn't until I got to art where they actually took the time to tell me my spelling and punctuation is absolutely terrible. And I had like 8 first year papers where they read my essays and not picked up on it, and one guy just said, I can't even read this, it's horrific. And it wasn't until then that I'm like, okay, actually, no, I can improve on this and actually do something. Everyone else was like, yep, you tick the box, okay, bye, stamp, tick, done. So it actually has to be words and time.
Any comments or questions on feedback?
What is good feedback to you and why?
I guess I answered that question.
I think that for me, good feedback is kind of one where it's difficult because I guess for me, good feedback is like personalized feedback. But obviously, if you have a cohort of like 600 something people, there's no way that you can do that. I've just found for me that when you publish like a marking rubric or an example document, it's left up to the student to make a estimate on where is good and where is bad. And well, it's kind of like I don't even know what is good. Now I'm supposed to judge what is good. It's a little bit difficult for me. So I guess lecturer directing personalized feedback is the best, but that's not very realistic.
I agree with that, and I think I probably answered the question in my previous answer. And would anyone like me to repeat it or? No?
I would have just said that as individual feedback, and like I suppose most of the answers. The only thing I will say, or that I completely disagree with, is essays that I have done in the past as an exam, or generally as an exam actually, more so than an assignment. You're literally given a mark, 12 out of 20, 15 out of 20, 17 out of 20. Not a single word on that essay. Like I get, potentially some of those papers might have been pages or that aren't part of my major, so, to a certain extent, do I really care? Potentially not for those papers. But if it is something that I am doing that I'm going to continue to do, or why is it that I got that mark? Where is it that I went wrong? Where is it that I can improve? Because having no feedback at all and just giving a mark, cool, if you did great. Okay, well then, but I still don't know where it is that I went really well. And the reverse as well. If I did really bad, well, where did I go really bad? So giving us, whether it even is just, a good point here, or maybe you should consider blah, 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 or whatever, and even if it takes an extra 4 or 5 days to get the results, I would rather that than just be given a blank sheet with, this is the score you got, good stuff, mate, see you next semester. That doesn't mean anything to me.
I can understand feedback throughout the semester, right? Like on the various assignments. What about final exam? Do you care about feedback, yes or no?
again, for some of the papers that I've done that I've had to do as a prereq, as part of my major, possibly not so much. But if it is to do with my major, Christ, I want to know. You know, because it does lead on. You guys know this, we all know this. It leads on to the next thing. So where is it that I went wrong again? You know? Why did I get it wrong, or so on? Not so much in an exam, you don't get that, but I suppose with tests and so on, you do get involved. This is where students went really well, this is where students didn't go so well. To be quite honest, personally, I don't care what everybody else did. I want to know where I went wrong, and much like I assume like everybody else, where did I go, you know, as a personal thing, where did I go wrong? It's my degree. You know?
What do you think of automated feedback? For example, Canvas quizzes, you get the question wrong, you get the justification why it was wrong, and also what do you think of peer feedback? Do you think they're learning from it, or not really?
I mean, I'll pass the mic, but just in terms of peer feedback, hit and miss. Some of it was like, the stuff that I have done is like ludicrously nitpicky. You know, like, mate, you should have put a full stop here. I'm like, you know, I want to know what it is that you thought of, what it is that I wrote, and so on. I have had some good answers, and I've had some horrific answers that I'm like, did you even read what I wrote? So, flip of a coin with peer feedback, instant feedback, or, sorry, how did you? Automated. Is good. I think, you know, you get it right away, where did I go wrong, and so on.
I would agree with that. The quizzes they're quite good with the feedback as long as it tells you why you're wrong. If it just says no, you're wrong, then that sort of hasn't solved the problem. The peer review is a bit hit and miss with what you get. Some people you will get that actually put in a lot of good effort, and then some people you just go, no, that was good, that was good, that was good. But then you've got, that comes back to the lecturer being on board, to where you can tell them, look, this person actually didn't really do any good work here, marking my assessment, and that's when they can come on board to help you with that.
I think first up is the automated feedback, such as Canvas quizzes. I really enjoy those, but obviously not every course can make proper use of those, I guess. You know, some courses are like essay writing, so it would be difficult to quizify. In terms of peer feedback, it's kind of hit and miss. I guess it depends on what the purpose of the feedback is. I've done peer feedback where it's worth percentages on my grade, but it's purely based on participation as opposed to the quality of the outcome. And so some people don't take those seriously, but then if you did make it based on the quality of the outcome, then I guess there's another issue with that, in that it's another student marking another student's work. How is that student supposed to know what, you know, a good answer is supposed to be? You can only kind of ballpark it or rough it, and that may not even actually be the correct answer or the right answer.
So with peer reviews, I think I learned more from doing another person's review, because it made you reflect on your learning and on their learning rather than what I received from them, because as I said, it can be a bit of hit and miss. For automation, it was helpful if it wasn't that hefty in terms of weighting, because there's only so much you can do with automation sometimes, so work a yes-no answer, and most courses I've done haven't been yes-no papers, they've mostly been essay-based ones. So the automation was helpful for quick checkpoints for 1 or 2%, but not for more than like 10%.
So a final comment, but I can see that we're getting a time signal back.
For automated like Canvas quizzes, like people, like I've been in classes and they've just done the quiz there and then command search, Word, there's the answer. So that kind of makes sense if you get that kind of feedback, and that's what you know you're going to get, that's the effort you're going to be put in. But for peer things, I did a psychology one and we did a presentation, and there was a certain mark that was the peer review, and there was a certain mark you gave for your peer review, whether or not they were paying attention, whether or not they gave you, like, it was like just personal or whatever, and it was like equally weighted, as well as the teacher having their mark as well, and it worked out quite well.
Thank you. I'd like to say a word on behalf of the team that put this together. Thank you for those that submitted the questions that we put to the students today. Hopefully we got those answers. Second of all, thank you. Firstly, I should say, probably should have been first, my apologies. Thank you to the students who've come along and given their time to answer the questions that you wanted answered. I think we have a small something for you. Additionally, and I know this happened last time we ran one of these sessions, people wanted and had further questions. If you are in that situation and would like to ask these students, potentially we can ask